Hi there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles and welcome to your Power Hour. This is your time to put what's on your mind on my mind, and we will put our heads and hearts together and we will come up with a way to go from stuck to happy as fuck in the shortest amount of time possible. Why? Why, JOYLYN? Because to me, time is the most valuable thing. We don't get it back, and I don't like to waste it. And a lot of what I share with you, it took me decades to figure out, and I wish that somebody somewhere was talking about this stuff when I was looking for it, because no matter what process you're in, no matter what you're doing, you can do it on your own, DIY, and there's tons of YouTube videos, books, because in truth, there are parts of any process that you and only you can do. However, having these books, these resources, will make it a whole lot easier and accelerate your growth and progression so that you're not fumbling around so much. If anyone has learned how to ski, at least for me, I know having an instructor made things so much easier. They explained what I was supposed to be doing with my feet and my knees, and how a sensation may be interpreted to my body and my nervous system, and what to look out for when I'm in actual danger, when I'm not. All of these things made sense to my brain. They were organized and delivered in a way that I could understand it so that I could put it together in a much faster way. That's what coaching does. That's why I'm here. Because a lot of this stuff is as clear as mud. You are trying to figure out how to change your life, be different, but everybody you've ever known has been like you or operated like you. That's how you ended up being reactive, being in an emotional habitude and pattern of pain and suffering and negative thinking and overthinking. How do you get out of that? And how do you get out of that when all your social circles and support is built around that? That might mean that you're going to be walking in the desert all by yourself because everybody's gone. That's why this group exists. And I'm here because I'm just a nerd, and I think that I came here just to know myself, and this is my journey, and I'm fascinated by it, and I like to talk, so I'll talk to you about my journey, and I think it helps. Because then you can see that you're not the only one. There's a lot of parallels and things about mine that you can apply to yours. And I also am just a natural born teacher, instructor, or coach to where I am good at simplifying really complex concepts and distilling them and putting really seemingly different and seemingly unrelated things together in a way that makes it make sense and is easier to grasp. And I'm also talking about stuff that a lot of people aren't talking about. One of the things we're going to talk about today is green flags. A lot of the things that have been going on and coming up is a lot of question about the process itself. And in this process, a lot of us know and have been in a place where we didn't like how we felt. We didn't like what was going on with our life. And so all of our effort and energy has been in attempt to fix that, to change that, or in some way avoid or prevent it. That's a problem focus. And what I say is when we try to fix something, we've interpreted that it's broken because we don't like it. So we think that it's wrong. A lot of times this somehow means that we are wrong because we know that we're kind of in the middle of this. So we are wrong and we need to fix ourselves, but whenever we try to fix something, we end up fixating on it. And then it becomes a fixture in our lives, and it is what everything becomes wound around and attached to. So we actually end up solidifying the problem and making it a bigger deal in our life, like a central focus or theme. Then things get even harder because everything's just peripherally attached. That's one thing. This is how our education system is built. we are taught to study the problems. I went through medical school, and what do we study? We study disease. We don't really do a lot of studying about health. Isn't that weird? Now, I am lucky. I went to naturopathic medical school, so we did get some. We did get to look at health. But conventional medical systems, they actually do not. It is all pharmacology and pathology. This is a broken system, because how are we supposed to recognize when things are getting better, when they are good, if we have no idea what that even means? And because a lot of us, what we're talking about isn't necessarily physical, it's emotional, it's social. It's learning how to do boundaries, how to take care of yourself, how to make sure that you're safe, how to actually take up space and say, it's okay for me to be here. Well, when a lot of us start, we're still starting with other people being a reference point for if we're succeeding. So our reference point is still outside of ourselves. So our boundaries become borders, and we try to push people away or hold people out or spend all of our time and energy convincing them that we are worthy of having this space, because we're not actually operating as the center point. So we've got that. The other thing that we've got going on is we are still in trauma brain patterning, in survival mode, and we're hypervigilant for anything to go wrong. Partly because wrong could mean we die. Either because we do something wrong and we are socially outcast, so then we are left to the bears outside of the wall and we're abandoned and we die. Or there may have been lifetimes where we were wrong. People didn't like us and they literally put us to death because we were a heretic or a witch or something that wasn't liked or popular. Or we have just internalized that making mistakes is not acceptable, it's not okay, and we'll in some way put our own self to death and just constantly berate and kill our self-esteem that way. These things aren't working because we're not feeling better, okay? So how do we go about actually doing that? And for a lot of you here, you're badasses. You're aware of a lot of this on a lot of different levels. And know that there will probably be certain areas in your life where you're making better, steadier gains, some where you're really, really struggling, some parts where you're not even aware that there's a problem there yet, and then some of them places that you've mastered and you feel pretty good, and I finally feel like know who I am in this area. That's totally normal. Nothing is happening uniformly, and it's not all happening all at once in the same time in every area of our life. That's sometimes frustrating, but also a gift, because if we had to do everything at once, that would also be very, very overwhelming. So just putting that out there so that you know, and this is what I call everybody's got a gimme. There's an area of their life where process is easy. There is no resistance to it. So there's acceptance, allowance, and flow with whatever process it is. That's usually the areas where you excel the fastest, maybe one that you came in being good with. But we can use that as an example that when I stop resisting the process, I move much faster. And what do I know about this process that I can apply to this one? And I talk about athletics as one of mine, where I understand that if I'm not good, I get an instructor or a coach, and I obviously get the equipment that I need, and I ask them, what do I need to know so I can do this? And then we start with basics, really basics. It's breaking down the things. And then it's a lot of repetition, especially at the beginning. It's repeating those basics again and again and again, just drilling. And then you put pieces together and you create a bigger play, more dynamic play, more people involved, and that gets to be more fun. And then when you're ready to master it, you pretty much take it all apart and start over again. Because that's what mastery usually is. And one of the best examples is, because it happens so early in it, is skiing. You hear, if you're on a hill and you're seeing them, French fries, pizza, French fries, pizza, for how to put your skis together or apart when you want to go down the hill or when you want to slow down. That's how you start. Just so you know, there's a start and stopping mechanism, and you can change your body position so that will change your rate of acceleration or deceleration and movement down the hill. But really quickly you learn when you get on a certain slope, that's not going to cut it. That's going to lead to injury, and it's going to happen pretty fast. So you have to learn how to just change your body and go sideways, and your skis are always parallel. So you actually have to deconstruct what you know, although that's in your back pocket. So when you're in, a little, you might have a little riser or something, you need to wipe your goggles, you can just wedge your skis out so that you don't go anywhere. And that's easy. So it's still always there. You're just going to use it less and less because it's not as applicable in these higher levels. You have to deconstruct what you know so that you can go to the next level. This is the process of life, living, and you. But here's one of the things that is so very important, is that when we're talking about you and the process, it's not because you were ever bad or wrong. Not ever. Not even for a sliver of a second. It's because you'd like something else. You came here to know you. You came here to experience something and to share something with us. And that something that you came to share, you may also have come to master, which means you're going to have to deconstruct it in a couple of different ways. The drills are going to be a little bit more harder and complex. That's so normal, but it's not because anything was wrong with you. We've got to start getting out of that. Now, rewind and go back to where some of the original thoughts here. A lot of us start being very resistant, especially when it comes to feelings, because we weren't taught, modeled, or had any witness of somebody who is actually dealing with heavy, intense emotions in a healthy way. So most of us know how to push that out, either with alcohol, activity, other people, other people's drama, our own drama. And here's what's interesting is another one is we can go deeper into our feelings without actually feeling them. I would do this. I could talk about my feelings all day, but I never actually had a felt experience of what the feeling actually was. I kept it all up here. That is very, very common for intelligent, traumatized people, okay? I know that now. But I can see this in my clients now, which is why they don't get away with this as long as I did. I could do that for a couple of decades because everybody was just impressed with how articulate I was. And wow, you can give words to the feelings that I have. Yeah, but I wasn't getting any farther with them because I was never actually metabolizing them because I was only talking about them. I was actually creating more of them because it's thoughts that are food for emotions. So I kept creating food so there could be more of this. And then when there's all that chemistry, which is the chemicals of your emotions, they will start feeding and telling you what thoughts to think. It's a fun loop that way. So guess who really was in that loop for a long time and getting positively praised for how articulate I was about it. So you can imagine how counselors thought they were doing such a great job and we were making so much progress. And then there's me who's wondering why I've been in counseling for years. I cry nearly on the daily. I can tell you all about the feeling. I can tell you all about the family dynamics that are included in it, but why wasn't I actually happier? And that's where I started to really get to work. And here's where one of the things that came up is we have to learn to accept our feelings. But a lot of us still are doing it here and then studying our feelings instead of feeling our feelings. I had somebody in brain training the other day, and she's going to know who she is as soon as I say this, who said, I'm really going to look at my procrastination today. I'm really going to be curious about that. And although I am always going to support curiosity over judgment, I was curious why she was curious about the procrastination instead of curious what was on the other side. Because procrastination is a survival technique. It is a mechanism of your subconscious to keep you alive, to say, hey, don't do this thing, because what's on the other side of this thing is something that I don't know. And if I don't know it, that means it's death. Your subconscious is never out to get you, and we need to stop that language. It isn't really self-sabotage. It will appear that way. But all it's trying to do is get us to survive because we're precious. Guess what? It's precious to itself, okay? Like all it's doing is surviving, existing. That's it. That's its function. It's a function that arises from having this level of complexity of organization of our neural tissue. Instead of fighting it, we can just accept it and then actually start to get curious about how it's working so that we can get it to work for us. But we can't get it to work for us if... So this could be where she's just in part of the process and just curious about the workings of it. And it is perhaps me being ready for her to be a little farther ahead than she's ready to go, because curiosity is always fine. And getting curious about the procrastination is interesting and might be, and it's good to notice that I'm procrastinating. That's really good awareness. That alone is very powerful. I'm procrastinating here. Here's the thing. What a lot of us tend to do is then go back so we can go into our brain longer and keep in survival longer, is be like, why am I doing that? What's that about? And even using some of the tools that I teach, like where do I feel that in my body? And again, all that information can end up being useful for it, but it can also be, I'm procrastinating. Is that what I'd like to do? Because a lot of us are actually now in a place of power that we keep refusing and going back to what we know, which is to be the not knower, the trier, the one who is reactive, who's waiting for someone or something else to change for us to change. And that's a shitty place to be in, as far as it's really hard to actually admit to. How do I know this though? Because I've been there. Oh, I am there. This is the struggle that I've been in for the last couple of weeks, is coming to grips with the amount of power that I actually have to change the circumstances of my life. And I will get pissed as hell. And there's a difference. I talked a couple weeks about the frustration that's coming from normal learning, because these synapses are developing, but they are not so synchronized, practiced, that they are habitual, that they are super myelinated and very swift and quick and very efficient. There's still some misconnections, a little bit of static, and in that can be kind of that twitchy irritation, and on a level, I'm ready to be there already, but I don't actually have the nervous system behind it yet. But as soon as I say I'm failing, I'm not there, I should be better, I have fucking cut off all the power that I had. I'm deflated, I'm defeated, I'm left mad. Instead of recognizing, here's where I am, it's still happening, it's in process, this is part of the process, I'm going to stay with it. But staying with it does not mean to force or push. It might be, is it time to play? Because we actually learn fastest through play. It also might just be take a break and let this shit integrate, because just staring at the grass doesn't make it grow. Just staring at the paint doesn't make it dry any faster. Go do something else, because those things are still going to be happening. It's not us abandoning ourselves, or be aware if it is. But my thing is to get curious when you feel yourself really in those really frustrating moments and you notice that you're in an old pattern. Instead of, because you always have choice and domination and conscious elective over where you place your curiosity, is instead of getting more curious about the problem, which is very academic, And again, nothing is ever wasted, so you might get something that way. But more and more, if we want to be faster about this, let's get curious about what's on the other side. What am I going to feel like when I finish this task? What am I going to feel like when I make this choice? Because I also know I can get really crunchy when I'm just refusing to make a choice. When I keep myself in limbo because I just don't want to make a move. Yeah, because up here there's a possibility of a wrong move, which isn't actually true. But, oh, do I want to go to the ocean or do I want to go to Joshua Tree? Like there's a, like who? You just get, like they're in opposite directions though. You know, you gotta pick one. But what do? I stay right where I'm at, right in the middle. I'm not going anywhere. So, that's awesome. Why don't I get curious and say, okay, if I go to Joshua Tree, what's that going to feel like? If I go here, what's that going to feel like? And then maybe it's just I flip a coin. Maybe it's just I get in and I go to the gas station and I see which interstate exchange is the closest. Like, the universe will guide you, but you always have to take the first step. And one of the first steps we can do is get curious about what do I have to gain here. So instead of what am I doing, more of that I've been doing for decades and I'm really practiced at understanding, intellectualizing, and focusing on the problem, thinking that that's where the solution is, why don't I just get curious about the solution? And I can kind of skip this step because here's the thing. Just like I talk about the process all the time, if I get curious about what the solution is, who I'd like to be, what's on the other side of this, if I get curious about that and I make a move in that direction, anything that's not congruent, it's gonna reveal itself. So instead of me standing in it trying to look around, it might be the very thing that my foot is on top of that I can't see until I make a move. And I find that's where a lot of us are right now, and we're wondering why we're not making progress, and it's because we're just not choosing to take a step. The other thing is sometimes we take a step and we want to know immediately, is this the right step to have taken? And sometimes we won't get that information until we take another step. And then sometimes that's actually for us to make the call. Am I making a step in the right direction? You can check in with your body. Does it feel a little bit better? I'd say then we're going in the right direction, even if the surroundings haven't changed yet. I'll give you an example of this. I was in an organization, and it's part of a global organization, and so it's got a whole lot of bureaucratic organization. That's just how it functions. That's just what happens when you have multi-level structures like that. No problem. But I took an official role that said I was going to hold this office, I was going to do this and be here every week and blah, blah, blah. And my life kind of went downhill, and I started to dislike everybody in the group. And, oh, this person's annoying, that person's annoying, I can't believe they have to do this. And I was getting really resentful about what they were asking me to do, and then I was like, wait, I said I'd do that. That's the agreement. I agreed to that. And then I recognized I didn't actually want this position in the beginning, but what I have is a lot of charisma and energy, and people can see how that could benefit the organization, so they encouraged me to take the position. And what do I have? I still have an absolute love of attention. I love getting attention for my energetics that used to be squashed down as a kid. You're too much, you're too sensitive. That now when it gets praised, I'm like, oh, hey, that feels really good. And a very human, we all have this desire to contribute to other people, that it's, I didn't want to say no, I didn't want to disappoint people, but I didn't actually want the position. I actually had to own that. So I actually stepped down. And I went a little bit back and forth in my mind, but it's just like you just have to make a choice, because you're either in this for the next 12 months and you're just going to have to deal with this kind of runaround and spending all my energy managing my emotions, trying not to be annoyed with people, trying to do my job even when I feel resentful about it. Or you can step down and take a bite of humble pie, say I made a move that wasn't in line with my best interests, and maybe make some people's lives harder in the interim, which I absolutely hate the idea of being the reason somebody's life got harder. But then I was like, what's on the other side of this choice? And for me, the one that I know I'm starting to recognize this is a go is relief. A relaxation, a decrease in tension. Because here's one thing that came up this morning. I put it on my gratitude list. I'm stressed out, like all the time. That's kind of who I know myself as. It used to be, hey, and this is a step up. Again, we're talking green flags. It used to be emotional pain. I used to need to be crying and processing so that I knew I was doing a good job at being me. I don't need that anymore, but I do still have to have that, like I know this level of tension of not being able to be quite relaxed with how life is going and unfolding. I gotta be trying to do something, right? That's where I'm living right now, and more I'm starting to see that's not working either. I'm actually becoming and dedicating and committing my curiosity to what does easy actually feel like? What does it look like? That's not something I really know many people who do. And the people who do it, just like every other human being, they can do it in some areas of their life and not others. But let me look at the ones that they're succeeding at and play in that energy. Let me congratulate and celebrate and support them in that, and let them know they are helpful to me and they're a contribution to me. My ex-husband is one of these people. There are certain parts of his life that he was so much better able to relax at than me. But there are other areas in his life that he will absolutely run and hide from that I wouldn't necessarily. We weren't meant, all of us human beings aren't meant to be doing all of the same things at the same time. We all have different things we're working on. Let people be gifts. Let them give you what they have. Take what you like and leave the rest. You don't have to beat anybody down. You can also upgrade your mentors as you go. He was great for a while. It was good energy to be around, and then it wasn't. Then it got to be more harmful than helpful, and so I step out and I find different mentors. This is how growth works. You gotta be clear, which means you're gonna have to start getting curious and being unclear about what it is that you actually want. The reason that so many of the happiness clinic programs work so fast is because we're bypassing this whole arrangement that the current conventional and most popular systems are of let's dig in where we are right now and see what the problem is and study it real good and hard, and then we'll see where to go from there. That's not the platform we're operating on. Mine is future forward. Who do you want to be? How do I want to show up as? What's on the other side of this? What would I like to have instead? How would I like to know me as? That's what we're going for first, and that's the first thing we're going to look at and pay attention to and get curious about is, what would I like to have? What would I like to add to my life? How do I want to show up? And as soon as we change our gaze to that, we're going to naturally move in that direction. And then guess what? Our foot comes off of the thing that we were looking for. Oh, that's the piece of understanding. I was standing right on top of it because I was trying to understand it. I was overstanding it. If that's even a thing, I don't know. But do you see how it takes movement? It takes action, it takes a choice, and the choice of staying put, digging deeper, isn't the choice that's actually working for us the best anymore. Let's get curious about what it is that we would like. What are the feelings I'd like to have more of in my body? And for me, it's relaxation. So if stepping down from that position and I got the awareness that there was a whole lot of release of tension, I had to make that choice. That was a no-brainer at that point. I'm stepping down. So then, yeah, everything actually since then has been mild. You know, I thought people were going to be mad at me. Actually, everybody was worried that I was going to leave the club entirely. And they were like, oh, I hope it's not that bad. I hope we... And it's like, I thought everybody was going to be mad at me. They were all worried I was mad at them. That had never even crossed my mind. Never in a million years. And then they're all actually happy for me. And one person actually was like, that's freaking badass for you to do that. and be aware of what you want and what you need more, and how valuable your energy is. And me also knowing that I do want to contribute to the club as a whole, and I would like to do that in a more JOYLYN way instead of this official role way. So now I get to be more me. It's actually a win-win-win-win-win. So let's change what we're looking for. So instead of scanning and trying to be aware of red flags, instead of getting curious about our self-sabotaging patterns, because guess what? We actually already know those. There are lots of books on those and resources, but a lot of us have actually already been living there. Let's start getting curious about green flags. What feels good in my body, that's a go. Knowing that they might change from green to yellow to red. They might change from red to yellow to green. We've got to be aware that nothing is static. But let's look for, be curious about, how do I want to show up? And if I want to be a procrastinator, know myself as a procrastinator, and in this moment, maybe I'm procrastinating because I actually don't want to do what I'm saying I have to do. Own it. Then do it good. Then be a good procrastinator. And then procrastinate in the finest fashion. Whether that's eating good chocolate, I'd say bake something. I mean, go full out off task, okay? And play, because that's when shit's gonna change, okay? Because a lot of times we're procrastinating because we just need permission to not have to do this thing right now. Maybe at all. Or maybe not as long. Or maybe it's just, we just need permission to be scared. I'm scared because if I actually do this thing, that thing is done, and then it's going to be off my list, so I'm actually going to have to do something else. I'm going to have to become more me, which means more me that I've never known before, which is a little bit scary, and that's okay. That's why it's good to have this community here, to have me in your corner, because it will rattle your cage from time to time. There are times that I've had situations and I'm like, who is this person? I don't even recognize her. She's so fucking powerful. But I'm going to share those experiences with you as well. Stepping down from that position is one of them. Breaking up with a guy with like 10-ish minutes, like nothing is getting in the way of what I want as far as what I know is possible for me in relationships, and this isn't big or good enough. Like, see ya. If I have to be alone for the next 8 years, well, that's definitely better than putting up with stuff. Like, that's me showing up in a big way, actually completely certain that what I want is possible and available because I can conceptualize it, and then I actually took big, bold action to make space for what I'd really want to be possible. So it's good to have models and also people who have done this so that I can say, yeah, it's shaky in the moment. Yeah, I get wanting some reinforcement or reassurance. Here it is. And then just sit still for a minute. If you listen, a lot of times there's messages. It might be a hummingbird. Hummingbirds come to me. It might be a rainbow. You guys know I love those. But a message that lets you know things are going to be okay, even though the external circumstances haven't really changed a lot. And then it might also be encouragement to, okay, you did the action here. Let's give it time to unfold. Let's go play or rest and give it some time. But all the while, let our organization, our gaze, our future forward focus be on how we want to show up, what would I like to add to my life, how do I want to feel, and who do I want to know myself as, and start making choices based on that instead of getting curious more about the disease pattern or the problem. Boom. That just happened. And now it is yours to watch. It is archived here for your replay pleasure. I would love it if you would hashtag replay when you watch this. I would also absolutely love for you to like and share this. I know you can't really share it in the group, but tag a friend in the group that you think this might help. And just so you know, I also do load them up to the Happiness Clinic channel on YouTube. You can look it up there to where you can invite people to watch these on the regular. It's also available for podcasts if you want audio only, because as beautiful and animated as I am, a lot of times it's just the words you need, and then it's a little bit easier because you can do it and drive. There are so many options for you to get this power hour because I really want you to have access to it. And I want you to share it so that more people have access to it, because the more the merrier, all right? Happiness heals. Let's get that ripple effect going. Until next week, I hope this lands in your hearts and you get some inspiration and juice to get unstuck and move towards happy as fuck. Until next week, I love you dearly. Thank you for all the hearts, Thomas. I love that. And I'll talk to you next week. Mwah.